Hey everybody, this is Marian Cowagowan.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Sinister.
Yes, Sinister, because it's the Spooktacular.
Ooh.
Sinister is, of course, the 2012 Scott Derrickson directed murder demon movie. Last week you picked the murder demon. Mm-hmm. And so here we are in the presence of Bagul. Bagul.
I just want to keep saying Gabagool.
Gabagool.
After that.
Hey, it's a Gabagool. It's Bagul, the demon.
What even is Gabagool?
Some kind of meat.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But this is not that.
This is not Gabagool. It's Bagul. And it is, Sinister is, of course, as we said, the 2012 Scott Derrickson directed horror movie. And if you've never seen it, you should watch it. We're going to spoil it, of course, as we spoil all the movies. I guess we never really say, like, hey, spoiler alert, but like...
I don't think you can have a movie podcast without spoiling.
You could.
Really.
It's possible. I wouldn't...
I suppose Siskel and Ebert, if they had a podcast, they wouldn't spoil it.
Maybe.
I am no Roger Ebert, so
yeah.
No one has ever argued that I am Roger Ebert. So,
okay, sure. That's that
was a weird reaction. That was meant to be self-deprecating, and you're acting like
I'm not sure how but okay.
You know who Roger Ebert is, right?
I do.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you not being accused of being him is a... Right.
It's because, oh my God.
Because of your unsophisticated taste in movies?
Because I don't even know.
I don't either. Now you see why my reaction was so strange.
Because to me it was so obvious.
You're living in the same world.
No, not really. Okay.
It's funny in such an obvious way that I can't even explain it. Don't you understand?
Because it was clear that it was self-deprecating for me to say, oh, no, I'm no Roger Ebert. And you're acting like I was being serious about it.
Yet when asked to explain how it was clearly self-deprecating, you seem at a loss.
Because it's so obvious. I don't even know. It's like you say, what does water taste like? Like water. Yeah, I don't know.
I could also say I'm not a tree trunk. And that's obviously true, but is that somehow self-deprecating? Have I been using the word self-deprecating wrong this whole time? Does it just mean something obviously not true? Because I thought it was like, a jab at yourself. Like kind of like, but you're like, no, it's just, if you say something that is obviously not true, it's self-deprecating.
Because the joke is that I would even consider myself to be like Roger Ebert when clearly I am not. Okay, we've spent way more time on this than
you know what I like just a little bit more than Sinister? Jokes that are so good that you have to explain them. And you have to say to someone, the joke is, let me just break this down for you. The joke here is that it's so obvious that I'm not Roger Ebert that it's self-deprecating when I say that. We've lost her. She's done. So Marian is not in as much of a state after this movie, in part, I would say, because she had a little rest. She had a little break between. So
no, I don't think I would have been.
I don't think you would have either, but I think you would have been a little less likely to self-deprecate with your Siskel and Ebert jokes.
No.
Jeez, she really did a number on herself.
No, not really. Honestly, the ending of this was kind of telegraphed.
Yeah.
Like there was very little that was a true surprise.
Sure.
I think I said at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be kind of like that movie White Noise, where the research that he's doing drives him insane.
Yeah, so the line that I had
kind of happens
when you immediately said that, the line I came up with for this podcast was, boy, that sure wasn't anything like White Noise, was it? Because that's not at all what happens in this movie. because you asked me that, and I just had to sort of say, I had to do the thing I always do and just sort of be coy. And yeah, the line I had come up with was, "Boy, that sure wasn't like white noise." But
well,
apparently, I don't know. I don't know what the similarity between two things is. Just like I don't know what self-deprecating means.
But he does go mildly insane.
Yeah, maybe sort of.
And then his daughter finishes the job.
Yes. So anyway, that's the plot of Sinister is that Ellison, was it Oswald? Is a true crime writer. This is 2012 when this came out. So prior to all the true crime podcasts and stuff, he's a crime writer who wrote a book that is that actually solved a crime, a cold case, and has since with his following two books not been able to duplicate that success. In fact, may have actually done damage to the cases that he wrote about in his subsequent books, and is now here at a relatively fresh case, around a year, it seems like.
Yeah.
After this family, it's a family of four.
Wow.
Five
originally.
Right. That are hung. Four of them are hung from the tree in the back, and the fifth one, the smallest child, disappears, and he is there to solve the crime because basically the police have just like, if she survived, she was abducted, she's a lost cause, whatever, and he's here to solve the crime, and without telling his wife, moves his family into the murder house.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is also telegraphed.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I don't think they want to hide that from you. Like, I think you are supposed to already be suspecting that before it's revealed.
Okay, well, good, because I was. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's I think very much the intent. Yeah, I think sometimes people say telegraph and they mean that it's a bad thing or like a failure on the part of the script or the movie, and I think often it's not. Like, often that's someone going, "Oh, when you left those clearly leading hints, you were telegraphing it." Like, no, we were leading you.
Okay,
we were foreshadowing.
How about this? It was so obvious to me that I'm surprised the wife did not figure it out sooner.
Well, you're in the movie, so she's in a movie.
I suppose. Yeah.
So anyway, so throughout the course of the moving in, he finds a box with a Super 8 projector in it and some home movies. He watches them to realize that he has a home movie of the actual murder at the house happening, as well as other movies over the course of like 30 years. Mm-hmm. There's like 5 of them, 6 of them, whatever.
Yeah, I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, so like the process for this the interval seems fairly long on them, but starting in like 66 and going to 2011, which was the most recent one. And yeah, throughout the course of the movie, he finds out that this is linked to an ancient pagan deity named Bagal, who was the eater of children. And his worship led to people sacrificing children. And there's also this belief that essentially the images of him is where he resides and where he kind of gets his power. Depicting him is the thing that allows him to continue. Thus, most all depictions of him have been destroyed over time. But luckily, he has a magic demon Super 8 camera and Super 8 film that can't be burned. And
teleports apparently.
And teleport.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's magic demon stuff. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
And the payoff of the movie is that his Ellison's daughter, 8 years old, 7, I don't know. 9,
yeah.
I don't know.
Ish. Yeah.
Drugs and hacks up the whole family and makes her own movie at the end after the reveal that all of the movies were made by the kids who are missing, that the killers in all of the movies were the kids who were missing.
Yeah. And every family previously lived in the murder house.
And then every family had previously lived in the murder house and then moved. So presumably had a similar experience to what they had in the movie, which is after pretty much exclusively Ellison being sort of tormented by the supernatural, maybe his son who keeps having night terrors and ending up in weird places. One of the children's spirits explicitly starts communicating with his daughter. And finally, the wife finds out that it's the murder house, and they leave in the middle of the night to go to back to their original house. And there is some implication, though, when we talk about the sequel, we will see how much that even matters, that the moving is somehow a trigger. And there's a character that is hilarious in this, named Deputy So-and-so.
Yeah, he's great.
Who is who kind of plants that seed. He says you sped up the cycle by moving so quickly. And we don't know what the circumstances were previously. Did these houses sit vacant and then someone finally moved in? Did someone move in and they were there for a long time and then finally had kids? And so that's the reason that some of these have 10 plus year gaps. I think there's something like a 15-year gap between the 2011 and the previous murder. It was 99, so maybe like 12 years.
2001, I thought.
Was it 2001?
But it was well. Or I think you could argue that in watching these home movies, Ellison saw the symbol and that sort of opened the portal, kind of. Whereas without that, the Gabagool would have needed to, I don't know, recharge his battery or something before he could get in there. So by moving, he moved up the timeline, but also things got to a fever pitch faster too.
Maybe, although like I said, the sequel does some things to sort of flesh out some of this stuff. But it is unclear because if Bagul's power only existed in the media being viewed and it's otherworldly in that it can be burned and it survives, it got put there. So he had enough power to put it there. I think that there was some level of him specifically manipulating Ellison.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think them finding it was any coincidence. Because
he was into the house.
Oh yeah.
So he was maybe more inclined to watch all the movies than somebody else would have been. For example, so this is making me think of, in one of the houses that we lived in, we found a box of old family photos in the attic.
Yes.
And I did not go through them all.
Oh.
And I mean, I looked at some of them and laughed at like the 70s poses and various things, but I didn't like research them because I wasn't convinced that it was a murder house and the photos weren't going to tell me anything. Now, but I tracked down the person who had lived in the house before and was like, "Do you want me to send this to you?" And she's like, "Oh yes, please." And I sent her some, and then I forgot to send the second box, and that ended up moving with us to our next house. And I was like, okay, by this point I can't send this now, so I just left that in the other house. So have we created a murder demon?
I think so.
I think we no.
That might be Gabagool, not Bagul. So I think if anything, this movie is most known for having the kids be the murderers. I think that's kind of a taboo thing. Not to say that it doesn't happen. I mean, Exorcist has a child protagonist or antagonist, and like other things like Rosemary's Baby and stuff, and Omen all exist. But I think just having the kids just be straight up murderers, like one of them drives a lawnmower over their parents' heads.
That was the worst.
Yeah, that's the one.
I had to watch through because I knew it was coming. But I still had to watch between my hands.
That's the one. So one of the things we will talk about as this goes on is the amount of jump scares in this movie. That's the one where I think they did themselves a disservice with a jump scare, because they do a orchestra hit and the character reacts.
Yes.
I think there is something to be said about showing that without any external commentary, just like he is filming this stuff with a modern camera so that he can get it on his computer. And like, if for a moment the movie shifted to the perspective of the camera recording it, you know, you do a little reverse shot where you see the film reflected in the lens of the modern camera, then you go to that very clear perspective and watch it in its entirety without any orchestra stings or reaction from Ellison or anything. I think that would have been so much more effective. But yeah, so I think that's kind of one of the things that this movie gets mentioned for, is being having the kids do this stuff in such a visceral way.
I took it as not exactly the kids doing the murder, but the kids were possessed. And that's why they did it.
Possibly. They are.
Nobody tell me if I'm wrong, because I just want to believe that sweet little delusion.
So the second movie goes a little bit into that. So the idea is that, and I guess maybe we can talk a little bit about the sequel now. So the idea is that the kids are, and I guess it's kind of like there's a chain of Bagul stuff. So the kids they move with the camera. They exist with the camera.
Okay.
And they talk to the current kid.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility in this movie that the ghost kids were talking to both kids. They may have initially been talking to the son, causing his odd behavior and his night terrors. And
yeah, that was a neat switcheroo. You kind of thought that he was going to be the one who was the portal.
Yeah.
And then, whoops, no, it's the sister.
Right. Because in the second movie, they specifically, it's two brothers, and they specifically do a more explicit switcheroo. Like, so in the second movie, they show you the process of the kids influencing the target child. So they're acting on behalf of Bagul. And the one kid is targeted first, the one brother. The other brother can see the ghost and is essentially jealous that he's not being targeted because he's like a little shit, and the one kid is pure and good. And that in the end, it does a flip-flop, you know, and the evil kid gets they shift their focus to the evil kid. And that one, like I said, kind of, it's been a long time since I've seen it. Well, a couple of years. And I don't remember how much they do away with the moving aspect, because basically this family moves in to, they're on the run from the unspecific, like the husband is somehow like powerful. He's part of a powerful family or something, and the wife has left and taken the kids, and they're on the run from the dad, and they're living in this farmhouse that's somebody else's whatever farmhouse, and there's like an old barn or church out back, and they find the camera in there, and that, you know, is how everything kind of gets going. And in that movie, it is starring Officer Deputy So-and-so. And he is your main character.
Oh, great.
And he's trying to track down other similar murders that have happened. And I guess the house that they're in, as I recall, was a murder house. And he's going there to investigate it and is surprised to find anybody living there, and then befriends the family. And in the end, they manage to avert another Bagul film. But there's a whole nother set of 8mm murder films, and it's like definitely related to the first movie, but it's not necessarily the same set of cast of kids. And they expand on something that they show in this one, which is the kids like to sit around and watch their own films. And the thing that they do to influence the boy in the second movie, they may or may not have been doing behind the scenes. You know, they don't show us. And if you're like taking the continuity of the second movie and pushing it back onto the other movie, they are showing them the film. So like the ghost kids are forcing the good boy to sit and watch the murder movies.
Ooh.
And they tell him, about how great it is with Bagul and all this stuff. And then then they switch to showing the other kid, and he likes it because he's crazy. He's the bad seed. And so, it's a little bit of influence, I think, from Bagul, but also it's, I don't think it's full on possession. I think it's just leading them astray, like promising them some sort of afterlife or something, or some sort of eternity or something. The kind of stuff that demons promise you when they come talk to you at night.
The taste of butter.
Yeah, the taste of butter, that sort of thing. But so if you want to kind of think that the kids are 100% possessed, we'll leave you to that.
I'm gonna go with that. Yes, because I need to be able to sleep tonight.
Yes.
So
yes. So I mean, was that? How did you think that the kids being the murderers, like, was that shocking to you, or were you just write it off as they're possessed?
No, it was not. It wasn't.
So before he finds the endings and he splices them together, what did you think was going on? Because just for context, after they've moved out of the house, the murder house, and back to their own house, he finds the box again after having burned it, and he knocks it over, and he notices a new pouch inside that says extended cuts with endings, and he splices the endings back onto all of the films and watches them, and that's the point at which the reveal is that all of the kids did the murders. It cuts to the end of the end of the hanging scene, and the girl climbs down from the tree where she was hidden behind the tree, sawing off the branch and stuff, and all the other kids reveal themselves.
I don't know if I knew that was going to happen, but it wasn't surprising because they'd been so explicit about one kid is missing from every single scene. So, I think I would have said that Gabagool, I'm sorry, I can't. It's just what his name is now. Did the killing?
Yeah,
but
and just ate the kid. Like, he's a child eater.
Yeah. But this was not super shocking to me.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's more of just when people talk about this movie and they cringe at it or whatever, it is just the fact that the kids are depicted as doing the murders, and the murders are gruesome.
For whatever reason, that does not bother me. I don't know why. I've talked before about, is there something wrong with my character that it doesn't upset me when like kids are hurt in movies? Yeah. I'm just like, okay, well, but these kids are murderers. Okay.
Whatever. Yeah. But, so the one thing we briefly touched on is the jump scares. They got you with a lot of good ones in this.
Yeah. Well, there was one when I remembered you, I think last week, talking about The Descent, talking about how they used music very effectively.
Oh, yeah.
And there would be like no music whatsoever, no sound, and then jump. And so there was one point when Ellison is walking through the hall and it was totally silent. And I was like, okay, brace yourself. And I still jumped.
Yeah, that is the one criticism. When I wrote jump scares, that was the main thing I wanted to talk about, is that they are almost exclusively choreographed beforehand, or telegraphed. Sorry, I should say beforehand. Yes, there's Ellison with his bat. He's walking through the hall. It's dark, and there's this very 9 Inch Nails. I don't know if so 9 Inch Nails. The gimmick for 9 Inch Nails used to be, and I don't know if it still is, that everything they put out was a halo. Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4. So all of their releases were halos, and this sent fans into this frenzy of like trying to find everything, because they would release like the song Sin. The cat found the door knocker, the door stopper. They would release like the single, like the cassette single for the song Sin, and it would have like a remix on the B side. And it would be like Halo 4. And so you would have like, Downward Spiral was like Halo 7 or whatever it was. And so they had all these releases, and they released this video, and I forget which Halo number it was, but that was the idea. Like there was a point where I was like, I want to try to get all these Halos. And one of them was this double VHS set. and it had all of their uncensored music videos on it. And it had all these like interstitial things and like little clips and stuff that had been made for like some of the more atmospheric songs. And it was all a lot of like 8mm looking footage of like weird machines working and like gears that had like flesh on them and like weird masochist machines that were like torturing people and stuff. And all of the music cues in this remind me of that.
Yeah.
There's like this sound that they use, and it's the sound kind of like a flash bulb charging up. It's like, like I can't even make the sound. But they use that a bunch, and it's Nine Inch Nails uses that a bunch. And like several other sort of machine sounds and things. And then they have all these like child whispers in the background. That's going full blast.
Yeah.
And then it just all cuts out.
Yeah.
To silence.
And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And then sometimes there's like a boom, and then there's boom, there's a orchestral hit, or whatever. And and something screams. And
can we just Nine Inch Nails for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So over the summer, Snoop Dogg was at the Olympics, and we were having to explain to our kid why this is so amazing for people of our age to see Snoop Dogg being like America's favorite high uncle on TV. Because when I was our kids' age, Snoop Dogg was a little bit scary.
Yeah, it was like dangerous.
Right? Yeah. And now he's just this goofy guy. Trent Reznor, kind of the same thing. Not that he's a goofy guy now, but like he does legit films. He wins Oscars. He's a serious musician. Yeah. When we were in high school, like our parents, I'm sure, were terrified of what would happen if we listened to Nine Inch Nails. I mean, like there's all this, like the machinery and like pigs and vaguely demonic, and
it's very S&M and very like he was less demonic and more just sort of weird, like demonic adjacent.
Well, he was demonic in the way that people who are scared of anything edgy demonic.
He was demonic in the way that kids back then were, which was to say intended to rile up Christians, like pearl clutching evangelicals and stuff. And Marilyn Manson would go on to, in that same era, because Marilyn Manson had all these different eras, but in that same era, in that Antichrist superstar era, would go on to like perfect that same formula as Reznor kind of went away from it into this weird, into like The Perfect Drug, which is like this weird Willy Wonka meets like Edgar Allan Poe kind of thing that he was doing.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. You got to watch The Perfect Drug video sometime. Reznor is definitely softened over the years.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me. Like he's now a serious musician, and I'm like, I remember when he wanted to fuck you like an animal, and that made me pearl clutching.
That was he was good at that. Even the early stuff that's way more techno and way less industrial, like Sin that I was mentioning earlier. Like a lot of their songs, even though they had this like kind of bouncy techno beat, like when you actually listen to the lyrics, they were very clearly baiting like Christians to protest this, and saying, as I think a lot of that music back then was, like, hey kids, this will piss off your parents. Yeah. Like, listen to this.
Yes.
And his whole aesthetic, the leather pants and the mesh shirts and, the
sleek,
kind of
shiny surfaces,
like dirty hair. And then everything else was filthy and crusty and dusty around him.
Yeah.
And lots of, a lot of their covers would feature weird insects or like,
skulls, animal skulls,
animal
goats.
skulls. Goats. Yeah. Cause a lot of those animals look, weird when they're a skull, like a mouse head without a jaw or ears looks very weird. And this movie I think is borrowing a lot from those aesthetics in a lot of ways.
The symbol of the gabagool looks kind of like, it kind of looks like a goat skull, but it also kind of looks like a vagina.
A little bit, like fallopian tubes and stuff.
And the lips
deal.
and the other.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably meant to be both.
Yeah, it also, and for me as a geek, it looks like the Quake 3 symbol, but that's just like my video game brain. But yeah, I do think they that was a great path that we just went down about Nine Inch Nails for no reason, because I decided to try and explain the concept of their Halo release.
There's
system.
always a reason.
But yeah, the jump scares are a little choreographed. They're a little much. I would like to see a more restrained version of this movie. In the sequel, they really go overboard even more with the jump scares, especially the one that I think never is scary, which is like Bagul popping in to say hello from the side of the screen.
Yeah,
like, hey guys.
It's so ridiculous that it's. I mean, like you jump, but then you're like, oh, you silly.
Like
you're photobombing. Ha ha.
Yeah, he's like, hey guys, what's up? Hey, you guys gonna get scared later? It's just kind of and I would love a more restrained version of this movie.
Yeah, some of it felt like oh my gosh, Scary Movie, those series where they're mocking Scream and The Ring and all that other stuff, and it's completely like you know what it's referring to, but it's not scary at all. Some of it felt like that. Yeah.
And I think, this movie does a great thing that a lot of people, of course, famously Jaws did this the most, the best, which is don't show the creature, don't show the villain that much. Like can you even describe what Bagul looked like after having watched just the first one?
Kind of like Beetlejuice, honestly.
Like, does he have a mouth?
Yeah. Yes.
No. Does he have a nose?
Well, he has makeup on.
He doesn't have makeup on. He's got like a weird demon face, but it's like smooth. So they show him a lot in the second movie.
Oh,
so to me, what he looks like is some guy badly cosplaying the Crow. Because he's got the long jacket, he's got the dark around the eyes, so it looks kind of more like bat wings kind of coming out. But yeah, just the dark around the eyes. The mouth is not defined because there isn't really a mouth. I mean, and I think it's supposed to in this movie looks like a guy wearing a mask, some kind of mask to like obscure his identity. Because initially, one thing I think they do a good job with in this movie is initially they don't make it supernatural. Like all of the scares that happen early in the movie are natural occurrences. The house creaks, his sleepwalking son somehow folds himself up inside a box. The little kid does a jump scare looking for the bathroom. It's all that kind of stuff. And then even when he starts to see Bagul, like in the background of the videos and stuff, it's just this white face that could easily be like a person in a mask. It could easily be a person with face paint.
Yeah.
And I think they do a real good job of that. And then eventually they are just like, nah, man, like, look at these ghost kids. We got ghost kids. Or like, hey, look at the computer screen there. Hey, the picture turned its head to look at him. Look at that.
Yeah. After that, I was looking in the background the entire time. Yes. It was kind of like, The Conjuring.
Yeah.
When the demon face is behind him all the time. And there's something where there are letters in a lot of the, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, there's letters that spell something out in the background. There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and there's the Haunting of Hill House has the same thing. Like they say if you rewatch that series and concentrate on the background, there's stuff going on. Yeah,
I was expecting a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of places where I was thinking like, that was a great chance for like a totally subtle Bagul, like
especially since so much of this is in the dark.
Oh yeah,
because Ellison is apparently nocturnal and does all his work in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So and doesn't have a very well lit office. I'm like, you are killing your eyes.
Well,
sir.
He doesn't until he does. Like sometimes he has full light on.
Well,
but when
it's still it's a very dark.
Yes, it
movie.
is. It is.
So a lot of shadows, and I was like, okay, I'm looking for it. So of course I would see it, but it just wasn't there.
And I think there's a really cool, and I'm saying like, oh, I'd like a version of this with less telegraphed jump scares, and I'd like a version of this with this. Like, no, like this movie is fine as it is. I'm saying just when I watch it, I would love So one of the things that I would do if someone just gave me and said, "Hey, make a horror movie," is I would fill the first half of the movie. I would stage it like this, where the supernatural thing is not yet revealed, and probably do legit jump scares that are, or creepy moments. The cat jumps out, that sort of thing. But all throughout the background. And I'm talking about like, there's a moment in here where he turns the contrast up to be able to read something. I'm talking about like so subtle that you would have to turn the contrast up on your television to see it. I want the ultimate villain, so in this case, Bagul, to be ever present, to have been constantly there since like the first moment that they came in the house. Like coats hanging on coat racks are actually concealing a Bagul face. There's a moment where he's teetering back and forth in front of a doorway at the end of the hall that is lit, and he's looking out a window, and the teeter forward reveals the door, the teeter back blocks it, the teeter forward reveals the door. I want a Bagul in there, and a subtle one, an incredibly subtle one. I want like reflections on windows that are almost imperceptible. I want like fans of the movie to be able to go back and rewatch the movie and go, "Oh my God, it was there the whole time."
Yeah, on the level of when you watch Fight Club again, you see all these subliminal images of Tyler Durden. Like, that level of stuff.
Yeah, like I would love that. And this is maybe not the movie for that, but just this idea that the evil was ever present throughout the whole thing constantly, and it was so well sort of concealed that you just didn't notice it.
Yeah. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No, you don't know what the thing's face looks like, and then once you're like, "Well, did I see that?" Yeah, in like a folded up, towel in the closet.
It's everywhere, and then you see it in your own house.
Like, "Oh my God!" Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of, you want a version that da 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 da.
Yeah,
I want a version of this where Ellison is played not by Ethan Hawke, but by James Franco. Does this not seem tailor-made for James Franco?
I guess kind of.
Like down to, dude is wearing a big old cable neck cardigan with elbow patches.
Yeah.
That's extremely Franco.
I was going to say, that's some real like comfy core.
Yeah.
The way that if I worked around the house and that was all I ever did.
I would too. But and the shirt he's wearing at first is Bennington College, which is extremely like crunchy and, it just, like that screams James Franco. Yeah.
Aren't we off Franco though? Isn't he a...
Yes. I don't remember what he did, but yes. But in 2012, he was still
2012, before we knew he was
persona pro grata in 2012.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That would have worked. He definitely could have done that. Yeah. And we talked about the sequel. Like I said, it's Officer so and Deputy so and so, on like a crusade to stop Bagul, I guess.
The two other cameos, because they're so short. Vincent D'Onofrio, who you don't see that much anymore.
No,
as this professor who researches the occult and is
like sort of aware of the murders. Like either you get the feeling either he was consulted on some of the previous crime scenes, or
he just knows
enough to know, like to know the signs. Like, a family of 5 was murdered. 4 of them were murdered and 1 kid is missing.
He's like, oh yeah. Well, and for half a second I was like, oh, he's going to be the big bad of all this.
Yeah, you could have done that,
because there's this weird thing where his like assistant is in the background and she keeps walking behind the desk and he's, "Oh, Jessica, can you blah blah blah? Thanks, Jessica, blah blah," and you never see her. And I was like, that's weird, but maybe that's just Vincent D'Onofrio excels in playing weird people. So
maybe they're trying to make it authentic. Like, this guy's not dropping his whole world and he's not looking at the camera on the, he's clearly just looking at the picture of himself in the corner of the video call. Well, I thought that was a nice touch.
What's funny? Yeah, I mean, it didn't even occur to me until just now, but this is in 2012 and it's a Zoom call, which we were not having Zooms all the time.
Yeah, or it's an iChat. It's an Apple thing, but yeah. It was not a normal thing. That's another thing that I think that I noticed when actually meant to put on the board. This isn't the technology isn't like anachronistic in this, but it's in that weird zone where it's 2012 and he has VHSs and has like a smartphone that's capable of snapping pictures.
Well, the VHSs were from like 10 years before, right?
Yeah, no, I'm saying
I still
so
had
it's
a VCR
yes,
in 2002.
2012.
Right. This is 2012. And
Yes.
the VHSs are 10 years before.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is having him have a drawer full of his old interviews.
Oh, well,
when he could have easily digitized those.
He hasn't had the money.
Well, sure, but at the time that he recorded those on television, he was at the height of his popularity. Yeah. So it's this interesting time of like 2012 was maybe the latest that I knew anybody who still had a VCR and still had any tapes, like 2010, 2012.
Yeah. I think the first, we don't see his cell phone for a while in the movie. And for a while, because the Super 8 makes all the the murder movies at a time. You don't know when things are.
That was when I didn't say that, but when I brought up the anachronistic thing, that's what I was trying to pin together, is that there's Super 8, there's VHS. He's got a hi-fi digital video camera that he's importing footage into his iMac, and he's got a smartphone. So it's just this weird, place that it sits. And I think that's always interesting, how movies sometimes have to deal with technology or choose not to deal with technology. Just place their movie like out of time, or very specifically make like cell phone's not charged, or whatever. And it was really funny to see the way that this movie just kind of dips into everything. Like you said, they're doing a video chat in 2012, something that was not common. They're doing there's a Super 8 camera it's a ghost camera, but still, like it's a demon thing. But he's still, and the other thing was like, and on some level, I get it. Like Ethan Hawke isn't that much older than us, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
But he just instinctively knew how to set up a Super 8 camera.
Yeah, I was like, I would not have any clue. I would be calling the library, and they'd be like, "Listen, we're old technology, but not that old.
Let me see if old Betty's around."
Yeah, she's really into antiques.
Yeah, she's 52. We call her Old Betty because she's old. But also like I was responsible for, doing reel-to-reel stuff in the library, and I was a media assistant in high school, in the library, specifically in the video room, and I had to occasionally like reel-to-reel stuff, like from the size of the reels matters and stuff, and like sometimes you've got to take it down to a different diameter or some crap, I don't even remember. So I had to like change the reels and stuff, and I had to mess around, and I helped in the class when they would show like the reel-to-reel movies and stuff. Because I'm old enough that in like elementary school, when they showed us films like of safety films, and crap like that, they were reel-to-reel. They were like 35
school in
like
1964. I don't remember. Any of this at
but
all,
I mean these things were like from the 50s.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that sort of stuff, all of that together, I like that, because it does sort of, even though they're explicitly telling you it's 2012, it creates this kind of world where it's like all of this intersection of all this weird technology, and they resist the urge to have the kids be like, "What's that?
Yeah,
what's that weird thing with the reels and the tape and all this?" But it's always entertaining to see that sort of technology pop up and how movies deal with it. I mean, I think the only other thing I had on here was the atmosphere. We already pretty effectively talked about that. It's dark a lot. And it's they do a lot of good sound stuff, despite me complaining about the telegraphing the jump scares. They do a lot of good sound stuff. I just think in general it's shot pretty well. This director previously had done Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
And I think he did the first Doctor Strange movie and something else. I can't remember the other thing that he did that was big. But like very very competent filmmaker. Got a lot of stuff going on now. I think he had like 4 or 5 projects in the works, something to come out over the next couple of years. But yeah. I mean, there might not be a whole lot more to say about this movie. I mean, did you think it was scary?
Yes, not in the way that The Descent was.
Yeah.
I will not need to give you the silent treatment for a week after this.
Good.
Nor will I write an academic paper about how much I hate this,
like Mandy,
like I did Mandy.
Good.
Yeah, you said it's disturbing, and it is.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to try not to think about it.
Yeah,
but it could give me a sleepless night if I tried to.
Yeah, the things it does well are the 8mm film parts, which apparently was just like the director and like one grip or something, or like maybe the director of photography or something, shooting these largely by themselves with the ambient light at and the actors and stuff, and you can tell like it comes through really well that it's like guerrilla type stuff, like amateur, and they pull it off perfectly, and they do that really well, and the overall I had it and I don't know. I lost it. So there's something else it does well, but my brain just short-circuited, and now I can't remember what it is. You'll never know.
No.
But yeah, there are a lot of things that it does well that I think work really well. The 8mm stuff and
the secret third thing
and the other thing.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you know what that thing was that Dave was trying to remember and forgot, would you let us know? You can reach us 2 different ways. You can send us a DM on Facebook, or you can email us. Our handle's the same for both. It's YSMY Podcast, YSMY for You Show Me Yours. We're at gmail.com. Also on Facebook, you can find links to our latest episodes. Typically, we have new episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode. But during the month of October, we have new episodes every single week, which in the year of our Lord 2024, October has 5 weeks. So there's 5 episodes. We're halfway through the Spooktacular. The 4th annual, did we decide?
Yes.
4th annual Spooktacular. So there's 2 more to come. So next week, what are we watching next time, Dave?
So instead of trying to scare you more, we'll save that one for the last week.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. All right.
Yeah, and we'll go with It Follows.
Okay.
So that is a movie that I think is not super scary, but it has great atmosphere. It has a great soundtrack, and it's just one of those horror movies that you need to have seen because it's. Okay. I think it's got an interesting premise.
Okay, and from what I know of it, there will likely not be creepy children in it, or at least they will not be the protagonists.
Correct. Not for the whole movie.
Oh no.
There's at least one creepy child.
Oh dear. Okay. All right. Well, tune in for that, folks. We will see you next week with It Follows and Creepy Children ? In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, this is Marian Cowie Owen.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. I forgot what to say.
Jeez.
How are we explaining Spooktacular? I forget.